You're right on time because orange juice in the kitchen is about to get started. We're your hosts. I'm Annie Graff.
And I'm Maggie Jensen. Pull up a chair because the OJ is flowing and it's about to get juicy.
We're getting deep in our combos about sobriety and mental health because that's how we've both found deep love for ourselves and the lives we live.
And when you love yourself in your life, there's nothing to escape. This is the real on how vibrant and colorful alcohol freedom feels. So grab your glass.
Cheers, besties. Let's chat.
We are back. So happy to have you here. Today we are talking to our audience that submitted a question. We have such a good topic that I think really catches a lot of people up when they're sober curious and then when they actually start to experiment and they maybe take a look around, an audit of their friend group, their inner circle, and they start to put a lot of emphasis on that and trying to manipulate and change things. And what we're going to talk about today is taking that focus elsewhere, taking it from the outside to the inside. Annie, tell us what we're talking about today.
Okay, so we got a question, and I resonate so deeply with this question because we've kind of chatted a little bit about it in the past, but it is really, for me, it touches on so many different parts of my sobriety journey. And so I brought it up to Maggie and I was like, I felt this. And so that's why we're bringing it to you guys, because if we both felt this and this person obviously feels this, then maybe someone out there also feels it. And we're going to chat on it today. So this is the question I got. She asked, I'm the only girl in my friend group who wants to be sober. How can I still engage with them, her friends, and have us all not focused on drinking? So this question for me, it, like I said, touches on a few different components. First off, the initial way this is phrased, I'm the only girl in my friend group that wants to be sober. So already there's fear around being alone, being the only, right? Then the next part of it says, how can I still engage with them? This to me brings up feelings of obligation. Like she feels as though she still owes friendship and camaraderie a little bit, owes something to this to these people, right? So maybe she, and this is something I relate to, is like maybe she's the planner of the group or like the get-togetherer of the group, the person that kind of brings everyone together. And then she says, and have us all not focus on drinking. So then it ties up with wanting everyone to be on the same page that she's on. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit because those are three kind of separate topics, but they all are very interconnected. And let's start with the first thing. I'm the only one in my friend group that wants to be sober. How many of us have probably felt that? If you have sober, curious thoughts, especially if they're reoccurring, you probably have felt this in some capacity, especially if you haven't taken action. Part of that probably stems from a fear of being the only, or a fear of doing something a little bit different than you've done in your past, a fear of doing different than what your friends are doing. And the cool thing about right now, I think sobriety is becoming a little bit more acceptable. It's becoming like, I don't know if it's my algorithm, but I'm seeing all the sober things, the sober celebrities, sober people vibing out on their life, that hopefully that's where y'all are too. And if you're not, I would just want to remind you that like, you're not alone. Maybe within your core group, you feel alone in your curiosities, in your revelations and reflections on alcohol not fitting for you anymore, not serving you, but you're not alone. Trust me. Honestly, actually, more people than you would think have ideas that alcohol isn't truly serving them, but most of us are numbing it and avoiding it. And similar to what we do with the rest of our emotions that we use alcohol to cover over, we are kicking that to the curb and saying, no, it's fine. This was a big thing for me in the beginning of my sobriety journey when I started taking action and start talking a little bit about it. I had so many of my friends that I never would have guessed that reached out to me and said, like, I've been kind of thinking those same things. I've been feeling really heavy on Sunday mornings. I've been feeling really low motivation on Mondays. I've been feeling this sort of way too. So like, that's awesome. If anything, a lot of my friends initially didn't just jump on my sober bandwagon, but I did have some conversations with more people than I would have thought that they too have had those thoughts in the past. So I want to start here because if this is a fear for you, that your curiosities are far different than the curiosities of your friends or the thoughts going through their head when they're consuming alcohol, you're not alone. You're not alone. And just because a conversation isn't there yet doesn't mean it's not something worth exploring.
Yeah. And I think that first sentence, like you said, is so telling because it really, to me, points to, okay, this audience member either has had that conversation and sat down with her girlfriends and said, I want to be sober. Would anybody else like to go with me? Would anybody else like to go on this journey with me? But I would kind of have this sneaking suspicion that that's not the case, that communication hasn't actually happened. And it's a lot of assuming, and it's going probably off of like how they talk about how much they like drinking. Like she's probably just kind of listening to the friend group, still planning brunches or still looking forward to margarita night. But how many years did we still continue to plan the margarita night because it was our comfort zone and it was our normal? And I wonder, had I had a good friend that started this before and like show me the way and show me like that it doesn't have to look scary or painful and that she could still be involved in things with us, like had somebody in my friend group kind of created that ripple effect, I might have been inspired sooner. So I would say to this audience member, like, it's not going to be about just assuming that they don't want to be sober. Maybe it's leading by example and inspiring them, and having those heart-to-hearts. It sounds like this is a really good, close-knit friend group. Yeah. So hopefully you guys could have that. And I think for a lot of people, we see this all the time with TSC members too, is like for a lot of us, especially in our drinking days, we just kind of forget to use our voice and we go off a lot of assumption, and we just basically think that our friends are going to dislike us or maybe not want to engage with us. And that's not always the case. If we can just communicate and try it out and be brave, using our words is very powerful. And you never know who's in that friend group who's like, I actually am really sick of Margarita Wednesday too. I'm tired of walking into work on Thursday feeling like shit. And maybe that can be the next step.
Yeah, 100%. I think they're spot on. You're spot on with what you just said about we don't fully communicate. And I think it's very fear-based. I think for me, at least, it was very fear-based. It was like, if I say I'm not having as much fun, and it wasn't even about the not having fun, because at the time I really thought I was having fun, but it was what came after. I was so ashamed that I would wake up after being the life of the party on Fridays, Saturday, Thursdays. I was so ashamed that I could feel that way 12 hours ago and then fast forward and feel so polar opposite that I didn't want to tell anybody that. Like I didn't want anybody to let anybody know that someone so high, so carefree and, vibing and party girl and all of the things the hats that I wore in my drinking days. I didn't want them to know that the next morning I did not feel that way. It felt almost like, shame and guilt and like, I don't even know, but I never communicated that to any of my friends. And even the people really closest to me had no idea, would never have known. Right. So, I was actually, this is kind of similar and will tie into the next part of her question where it's, how can I still engage with them? And I think the non-said part of this question is, how can I still engage with them and follow these heart tugs that I want to explore sobriety, right? So for me, what comes up here is this idea that, and again, I felt this too, is that we need to figure out how we can do it all. How can we hold it all? How can we hold all of our old friendships and not old, I guess, current. How can we hold up all of our current friendships? How can we keep up with the same social scene? How can we still be the fun party girl? No cares. Yeah, let's do shots. Yeah, let's go for margaritas. Yeah, happy hour. Oh my gosh. Oh, you're heartbroken. Okay, come over for wine. Like, how can I still be that? And also, like, give my soul what it feels like it needs in diving into these sober, curious thoughts. And the reality here for me is, now having gone through it, is you can't. Here's the thing, and I want to create this visual for you guys, is if we have two hands, okay? If we have two hands, I would pick up like everything here around me, but imagine yourself with two hands and you're holding your friendships. You're holding your personalities when you're drinking. You're holding your interactions. You're holding your habits. You're holding your current day-to-day lifestyle, okay? So this is you holding all your things in your drinking era. And then you're having these sober thoughts and you're like, okay. Yes, I want to try all those things. Like, how can I keep holding on to my stuff though? Because this is what I know. This is what I have. This is what is me. This is where I'm at. You can't. I mean, I can't hold anything else, right? Imagine even this is more full. Sometimes you got to set things down. You got to create that space to be able to get to a point where then eventually you can decide, actually, I want to pick that friendship back up. Like, I want to nurture it. I choose to resume that, and I think that's the really hard part when we're struggling with these sober curiosity thoughts, is we don't want to separate ourselves. We don't want to explore newness and leave what's familiar and leave our comfort zones, because when that's all you know, it's so common to fear the unknown. It's so common to resist it, even though we're curious about it. We're ruminating on it. We're ideating on it. We're thinking heavily on it. It can feel like, oh my God, that is like not even realistic. That's impossible. That's scary. That seems like something I would have to do alone, and I don't want to do that. And so we avoid and we put off. So for me, and what we actually really heavily suggest within the sober experiment is, let's shelve it. Let's shelve those things that are your comfort zone right now. Let's shelve the habits. Let's shelve that lifestyle. Let's shelve those thoughts even. Let's shelve some of those friendships. Let's shelve those environments that bring and rely heavily on drinking. Let's shelve it. Because the cool thing about shelving it is that we're not trashing it. It's not going in the dumpster and being picked up tomorrow by the garbage man, okay? It's just hanging out on our back shelf, okay? Cool. While we shelve that, then we have the ability, we have the space, we have the hands to choose what we pick up next. And this is the exciting part. Once you get okay with like leaving things on a shelf, honestly, that's the scariest and hardest part, because then you're kind of here. You're like, wow, like I have space, I have time, I have energy. For what? And this is another moment where it's like, yeah, for what? And this is what we encourage in the sober experiment is experimentation, curiosity in the form of, what hobbies do I want to do? What type of person would I love to hang around? Think about this in terms of her question is, what if you didn't have to convince anyone to try sobriety with you? What if you didn't have to convince anybody that hot yoga is fun, and that going on a walk is beautiful, and that deep conversations at a coffee shop are invigorating and exciting? What if you didn't have to convince your friends that a night in watching a movie and not even really talking is a great night? Like, what
Annie and my favorite pastime.
right?
When
Like,
we visit each other, what movie do you want to put on and ignore?
yeah, literally. Maggie, what movie do you want to watch where I'm going to interrupt every 10 minutes and ask you a question that you don't know the answer to? Literally us. It's like, what if you didn't have to do any convincing and there were just people around you who wanted to join in the things that you wanted to try? And that's a cool place to be. Because then at that point, when you start kind of asking yourself these what if questions, it's like, oh, okay, well, if I didn't have to convince people of this lifestyle that I want to kind of try on for size, how much fun, how fun would it be to simply feel accepted and feel not alone in that, and feel like that is the cool thing and that is the exciting Friday night, you know? And I think a lot of times we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to, again, hold all the things at once, but you don't have to. And that pressure you're putting on yourself is going to feel like a lot more than what you're able to carry, which will make you just continue to push it off, right? So anyway, I feel like all of that to say, it's okay to not still engage with them. Now, if you are dead set on it, what I would say is offer suggestions and see what happens. At the end of the day, you can't control what your friends, even if you've been friends since birth, if they don't want to go to a trampoline park with you, you can't drag them. Like, you can't, okay? So, like, if you offer up some suggestions to some of your friends who right now it feels as though most of their free time is spent around alcohol or doing things that require or are focused on alcohol, if you bring up a suggestion of a new type of activity, let's go for a walk. Hey, does anyone want to train for this half marathon with me? Hey, I'm thinking about booking this rock climbing lesson. Does anybody want to do it with me? Hey, I think I want to do a staycation. It's like this place an hour away. There's this beautiful waterfall. Okay, if you just threw them out there and nobody in your friend group wanted to join you, okay, then what? You know, yeah. Then what? You might start to see, like maybe these friendships aren't as aligned as I had once thought, which uncomfy, scary, hard for sure. But also, different perspective is freeing, exciting. What do I want to say? I'm like, yearning for what then what is in alignment, you know? And I think it takes some time to like make that perspective shift, especially with relationships and friendships, but it's there. And I hate saying like don't engage with that. If you're sober curious and your friends are not, peace. Like, no. I love the way my friends have supported my journey and been encouraging and not decided it was the journey for them, but we can still love each other from a distance, or we simply realize like there's really nothing more in common that we have, and kind of it's like you were a part of my life for a season, and that's honestly great for me. Like I have so much love for the people in my life that no longer are in my life, but it's all in these kind of like mindset shifts that I have learned throughout the whole journey. And you know, the cool thing about, like I said, that shelving thing is that at any point you can decide like, well, I'm going to go on this journey for me, and maybe 6 months down the road you're going to be like, wow, I really feel like a heart tug. I feel like I want to ask Becca what she's up to. I want to see what she's doing. I want to see if she wants to meet me for coffee, you know, and if she would want to be around this new version of me, and if this new version of me would want to be in her energy and in her space and put time and energy into cultivating a friendship there. And once you're in that place and you reach out and you know, try to take that cup off the shelf, that friendship back off the shelf, you get to decide, you get to figure out how that feels, you know? And I think that's like a really cool place to be. But again, it starts with deciding to shelf and deciding to separate from what you've been doing to dabble in what you might want to try doing.
Yeah, I think the more energy and thoughts you let your relationships and friend groups consume, or be consumed by, the less you are connecting with yourself. And it was the connection with myself that really allowed me to then step back into those relationships and be like, totally okay if they wanted to go have mimosa brunches and I could sit there and have my coffee and my juice and my little breakfast. But as I was connected to myself, I saw more and more red flags with certain friend groups, right? This might not be this friend group, but I say this because this is kind of the way that you see if your friend group is going to respect your boundaries, and you can see their true colors of, are they wanting to be around you because they love your soul, or are they wanting to be around you because you're the party girl? And I know for me, I was like, hey, if you don't have money, I'll come with me. I'll buy you shots. I'll do, you know, I'll pay the bill. Like, so I got to see in reintroducing these different friend groups into my life, which friend groups actually valued me for me. And I could see the reflection of like these things that I had gotten confident in, where they were then really projecting that back to me, which sounds a little weird, but in the beginning, it was like I was always afraid of what they would think. And then when I would hang out with them, it was like, it was what I was fearing was happening. Whereas when I was confident, I took that time off of drinking, I was sober, I connected with myself, I knew what I wanted, I knew who I was. And so I wasn't having to like chameleon between these friends. And when I was me and I was going to all of these different friend groups who were previous drinking friends, and I was the one version of me consistently across all endeavors, it freaked one group friend out a lot. And I could see that their colors were showing through, that they didn't really care for the emotionally regulated, non-gossipy, like, you know, like the calm version of me. They weren't really receptive of that. And it was like, okay, it's good for me to know that that was just a group for me to be around in my past. And I love them all dearly, but this just isn't a group that I want to hang out with anymore. And then there was another group where I go and they are supportive. Like you said, when your friends were like asking you questions, wanting to, you know, support you in that, you can see the different variations. And that might be something that this person just needs to try, you know, primarily, like we said, taking those things off, shelving them, focusing on herself for a while, and then going back and engaging with the group to see how they receive her. Yeah. Are they going to be like, why are you so lame? Why aren't you drinking tonight? Or are they going to be like, hey, love that you're not drinking. I'm going to have a drink, but hopefully you're okay with that. Are they going to be respectful? Are they going to mind your boundaries? I just think there's so many friend groups in this world that you could cling to your entire life without changing. And then at the end of your life, you're going to say, wow, I stayed in this friend group because I was afraid of stepping outside. And now my life, I don't have any room to change anymore. I should have changed back then, not letting my friend group's opinion of me affect what I actually went after.
Yeah. Gosh, when you were just saying all that, it's honestly very in parallel, very similar to the idea of like staying in a romantic relationship that's not serving you. And this is actually a question. This is a question I get all the time because I have been the person that has left and walked away from a very serious, committed relationship now twice. And and I've shared a little bit of that journey. And this topic of relationships and leaving when it's not serving you, as well as sobriety, how to actually step into that when you think alcohol is not serving you, they're very similar, right? And it's like, at the end of the day, you really have to ask yourself, if I get one life, if I have one life, do I want to spend it in a situation that somewhere deep down, I might not even know how to explain it right now, I feel as though it's not serving me? Do I want to spend it there? And if you're okay with that, okay, then just stay. Then stay. But if that gives you more discomfort, I don't feel like, I don't know, I still want to search for answers. And this was me in sobriety, and while I was in relationships I knew weren't serving me. Mm-hmm. I kept searching. I just wanted someone to tell me, oh, no, it's okay. You feel that feeling. Just stay, and it'll
get better.
It'll seam itself out. Nobody was there to tell me that. I tried to find it, trust me, because I'm like, how can I be okay with this feeling and also be okay and stay? Like, reality is, in both situations, relationships and with alcohol, I couldn't, and neither can you. If the discomfort of staying in a situation that you're currently in that you know isn't serving you, if that discomfort is greater than the idea of potentially experimenting with taking a step away, then you've got to take a step away, and you've got to lean into, okay, well, what else is out there for me? What else could be waiting for me out there in sobriety, in relationships, in friendships, in work, career, in anything? You know, I think if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be exactly where you are, you know? Yeah. And for me, I think the way I've constantly continued to like level up in life is I've had those moments so frequently of like, gosh, is this serving me? Is this serving me? And if I answer that question, I say no, I know I've got to go. I've got to do something different. I've got to shake it up. And it might not, you know, like I said, it's not necessarily trashing, but it's okay. I'm going to pause this here right now, and I'm going to lean into something else, you know? And with relationships, with sobriety, I want to say this phrase that might be like kind of taken, I don't know how it'll be taken, but for me, what I think of is nothing's that serious and nothing's that permanent. Like, at the end of the day, if I walk away from a relationship or I walk away from alcohol to try something else and to do something else and have a moment where I'm like, no, I meant to be with that person, or no, I'm meant to be drinking alcohol. At any moment, I can choose, all right, well then I'm going to move now in that direction. I'm going to try alcohol again. I will not be doing that. But if I felt that feeling, okay, or I'm going to reach out to that person. But the crazy thing, I say those and it's like really hard for me to like even have those like thoughts and those words. But like I had to tell myself that. I had to tell myself that both in sobriety and with relationships of like, if I get 6 months down the road and I absolutely hate this, I'll suck my ego right up and I will tell that person I miss them, and I will run back to that bar on Thursday nights if I hate it. Mm-hmm. The crazy thing about going on a journey for yourself, with yourself, by yourself, is that I bet, especially if it's stemming from a place of, this isn't serving me, you're going to embark on that. You're going to do some work. You're going to realize some shit. You're going to feel some things, but you're going to grow, and you're going to get to a place if you stay consistent. And don't give up too soon, because there are some uncomfy realizations. There are uncomfy moments. There are some things that will transpire. But ultimately, when you do that work, I bet you're going to get to a place where you're like, wow, I'm 6 months from now, and I don't want to pick up that cup from the shelf. Like, I don't even want that anymore. That is not even my taste. That is not even my style. That is not even remotely on the forefront of my brain. That, you know, and that's that's where you get when you do the work. But like the reality is if you stay in your alcohol habits, in your toxic relationship, in your friend group that you don't think is truly aligned, if you stay, 6 months from now, your habits, your conversations, your social interaction, they're gonna look the same.
They really will.
They're gonna be the same. You know, your Sunday morning feelings gotta be the same. You know, the lack of depth or the fear of rejection from friendships, it's gonna be the same. If you're feeling it right now, you're probably gonna feel it in 6 months. So take that fear off the table a little bit, or take that, you know, hesitation and be like, okay, if in 6 months, if I stay, it's gonna be the same. Let me try something different then. Let me try, you know, going to hot yoga on Friday nights instead of the bar. And let me try hitting up that random girl from the gym that I know she's always there when I'm there. So like maybe she can be my friend, you know, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try whatever it is, whatever's coming up on your mind. That's a new habit, a new social circle, a new lifestyle, a new thing. Just lean into it and do that, because in 6 months, if you're doing something different, it's likely to look different, you know? And from there, then you can continue to make new decisions each way. And I don't know, I think that is so relatable in so many different areas of life, but I think that's my mentality on so many things. And sobriety's taught me that. Sobriety's taught me, like, you know, it's okay to shelve things and grow, do some work. And if you want to go back, you can go back.
Yeah. And I think that when you say, you know, shelve something, just put it on the shelf. We say that all the time. We say that about alcohol. We say that about our friend group. We really have a lot of intention behind that, because what that does is it takes away like the what's the word? The forbidden fruit dynamic, the taboo dynamic of alcohol or those friend groups. As soon as we say, I'm never going to do that again, which is a lot of times what it feels like you have to decide when you try sobriety. You're like, I'm going to make a permanent lifestyle decision and I'm going to do it now. And I guess this is going to be my life forever and ever. That felt for me, and I think for you as well, this is where the common denominator for us really lent to success was like, we gave ourselves permission to say, if I hate this, after I do the work, I can go back. But I loved when you were like, when you get to the 6 month mark, it is going to be a different version of you. In my first 3 to 6 months, those experiences where I was going to coffee with girls from Pure Bar, or, you know, like making those healthy relationship connections, it opened my eyes to how many other friend groups that I could belong to, when my mind immediately in the beginning was so consumed by this one friend group. There couldn't possibly be anywhere else that I fit or that I belong in this world. Yeah. And that's so silly. And it's also like, okay, you have to take that time. If you do not, you're going to have 6 months of the same old. At the end of the 6 months, you're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to be the same person.
Yeah.
But if you take that time off and you do that work, in 6 months, it won't be the same version of you showing up to that previous friendship group. And maybe you didn't take 6 months fully off. Kind of speaking to the submitter of this question, maybe you didn't take 6 months off. Maybe you did 3 months off. And you just let them know, hey, I'm going to be doing, you know, healthy things on Fridays. And if you want to go to farmer's market on Saturday, like, you are welcome to join me, but continue to do it on your own, even if they don't join. And at some point, your paths are going to cross again, and you can take them off that shelf and get back into, you know, maybe you do go sit with them and have a non-alcoholic wine on wine night or something like that. But it's going to be a different version of you showing up, to where you aren't totally invested in the idea of we're getting together to drink. We're getting together to get toe up from the flow up. No, you're going to be getting together for connection, and your perspective on what the purpose of friendship really changes. What friendship is really changes, because you start to become friends with yourself, which sounds really cheesy. But I remember having like a friend a while back, and it was a very similar question to this, except for fitness related. I really want to start working out. I want to get a gym buddy. I want to go with somebody. And I told them, like, start going on your own, because if you're going to wait for somebody to be ready to go to the gym with you, you might be waiting forever.
Oh.
And then how many years are going to pass before you say, fine, I'll do this on my own? I think it has the same situation here of like feeling like I have to have my friend group doing it with me in order to succeed. And I understand power in numbers, but again, the journey really is and should be about you to begin with. And then we can start focusing on the relationship. And that's really where, you know, how we design TSE even in the phases is because in the beginning, it's very, very, very common to be so consumed by this idea and this question and this fear that we just say, you know what, go inwards. Figure out who you are, what you like to do. Most of the time, I think we spent our time drinking, just doing what we needed to do to get approval and validation and attention. And I think as you were talking, Annie, I was like kind of taking a mental note of an exercise that might help somebody in this situation is like, maybe make a list of your friend group, understanding that you want to go sober. Why do you stay? Basically, like at the top of a sheet of paper, write, why do I stay in this friend group? And as I was thinking about my previous self, I think January 2020, I would have written things that were like, I don't want people to be mad at me. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to experience fear of missing out. And it was all very me-based, my fear of what they had to say. Had I done that experience towards like my 6 month, maybe even year mark of like, why do I stay or why do I want to get back into this group? It would have been more like, I love talking to XYZ. I love what this person brings to the table. So why do I stay? The reasons start to change when you love yourself. The reasons start to change when you like yourself. And when you are your own friend, you see the friendship and the positive things in the other people versus just hanging on to them because you're so afraid what it would look like if you lost them.
I see for me what comes up exactly what you just said is like the lack mentality versus the abundant mindset. And 100%. The reasons why I refrained from sobriety and I stayed in toxic relationships is because I was scared XYZ. I was scared nobody else out there would ever want to be in a relationship with me. I was scared I would never ever talk to another man again. Like, you know, which leads ludicrous things. I can't even think of why. Like, I actually did this for a relationship. I wrote, do I stay? Do I go? And I made a list. And I wish I could find that again actually and look at it. But all of the why should I stay? And same thing with friend group, with a relationship with alcohol that's not serving me. Why would I stay in that? It's because I'm scared of what I'm going to do on Friday nights if it's not go to the bar with my friends. You know, I'm scared that if I, you know, want to do yoga on Fridays instead, I'm going to be alone. It was very fear and lack mindseted, right? And I couldn't even tap into the abundance. Like I couldn't even on the why should I go? It was very like, oh, to get out of the negative. Okay, I understood that leaving meant getting out of the negative, but the wording I used or would have used was very like to, you know, leave this, to not feel anxiety, to not feel to
stop feeling like shit all the time, to stop feeling embarrassed. And it's still focusing on the bad.
Yes, exactly. And it's so crazy because now I look at that and I'm like, that it's so true. But the way I would see things, you know, now about a year and a half into my journey, it's like when I think of, let's say, a friend group, do I stay, do I go? It's, do I stay? I would think, you know, yeah, what about this is serving me that makes me want to continue to cultivate and put energy and time and myself into this relationship? And then I would also think on the other side, okay, then why would I go? Okay, well then what else, what abundance is calling me on this side? And what do I want to gain on this side? And where am I headed over here in leaving this friendship or, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's so crazy to see that growth in mindset simply in doing the thing that's scaring you in the first place. I spoke on that. I actually was talking about this because I hit that 500 days of sobriety point. And when I started this journey, I literally said, like, don't worry, I'm not going to talk about this all the time. Don't worry, this isn't going to be my whole personality. Don't worry. Like, and I prefaced, I have this recording, this video of myself saying those things on my story because it was so rooted in fear. I was so scared that.
Why did you feel the need to announce that? What was that coming from?
I was scared. I was scared that people would start to notice that I was like doing things a little bit different. And I'm like, don't worry, guys, don't worry. I'm still fucking cool. I'm still cool Annie over here. And I was scared, that people were going to judge me, or people were going to like ask me questions, or people were going to think I had a problem, a very real serious problem. And that I was like, guys, I promise this. Not that. I mean, in my head, I was like, it might be that. Mm-hmm. But like, I was so scared of everything. Like, I was just like, don't worry. And that fear is where I lived, essentially. And now 500 days into this journey, everything I was scared of and did anyway. So I was scared of, to like put this into like more tangible words for you guys listening. I was scared of truly cutting out alcohol and changing my habits for, at the time, I told myself 6 months. So I was scared of the just simple act of doing that and following through. Then I was scared of talking about it and like having to have the conversation with people like, I'm not drinking alcohol, or like saying no to plans, like the whole communicating what I was doing, because again, fear of how they were going to take that, what they were going to interpret or like infer was true about me because of the way I was acting, right? Or the actions I was taking. I was scared of talking. Then the third thing is I was scared of opening up and being real, not just talking. So not just no, I'm not drinking anymore, because I knew what was going to be followed up after I said that would be why. I was scared of being like, well, I don't think it's serving me. I have this crippling anxiety that hits me every Monday morning and I can't do it anymore. I am scared that my relationships are being damaged because of the way I show up when I'm consuming alcohol. I feel this, whatever it was. Like, I was scared of telling people what was going on in my head and in my current day-to-day, week-to-week routines. So by doing those three things, taking action in sobriety, talking about my sobriety, and then opening up and getting deep in those talks about sobriety, and doing those three things, my life truly transformed in the most beautiful way. And so I want to share this with you guys, because whatever fear is grounding you to your current habits, whatever thing you're scared of happening, do exactly that. Actually, like, if you're scared of the relationship, of the friendship, of the friend group falling through because you choose to not consume alcohol anymore, do that. Do it. Just lean in, because in pursuing and in like figuring out what will actually happen, instead of like, what if, in taking action and then finding out what's going to happen anyway, you're going to gain confidence in yourself. You're going to see what you're capable of shifting in your own life. Oftentimes I think we forget how much control we actually have over the direction that our life, takes. Mm-hmm. And in taking action on the things that scare you, you're going to just realize like, wow, those were just thoughts I had in my head. And then I actually did the thing. And actually the reality of doing the thing gave me access to this beautiful existence, this relationship with myself, this abundance and happiness and joy, and like all these new hobbies and all these new friendships, and this life that I'm just so excited about. And to think I almost let fear of all the negative things keep me from doing that in the first place. Like, it's wild crazy to me. So I think anybody that's scared of anything right now needs to hear that.
Yeah. And I think kind of like to close up too, when I first read this question and even what you were just saying, I heard and sensed a lot of responsibility from the audience member that like, she's the glue that holds the group together. And when you were like, if your fear is that you doing different is going to cause the group to completely disintegrate, to fall apart, and you're letting that keep you from stopping, well, play that out. Like, let's go worst case scenario. You go on with your bad self. You shelve the friend group. You are going to hot yoga and farmers markets and trampoline park and doing that thing. And then you hear a little, from a little birdie that the friend group doesn't hang out anymore. Maybe they're like, man, now that we don't have our pack leader, like we aren't YOLOing. Why is that your fault? They are grown adults who know how to make plans. If they need you in order to create the fun, then that's just already a really obligated role that you have in that friend group, and you're carrying that pressure with you. So like, just say, okay, worst case scenario, if the friend group did dissolve, or if they are going on and doing the same thing for 5 or 10 years from now, and then I'm in my different path, like, worst case, is that something that makes you a bad person? Is that something that legitimately makes you somebody who like abandon your friend group? No, not at all. It makes you somebody who showed up for yourself. And these are grown ass adults who can continue living their life. And if they were to put anything on you, that says more about them than it does you. So I like to just add that you are not responsible for any of your friends. You're not responsible for how they spend their time or what they think about you and your lifestyle choices. When she said, how can I still engage with them and have us not all focus on drinking? That's not your responsibility.
Yeah. I was going to say, you can't force anybody's focus. But if you want to not focus on alcohol, do that and do exactly that. You can always, like I said, you can always offer options to those people and see if they want to. But at the end of the day, you can't shift anyone's focus for them. And that's the reality. That's like the harsh truth of the answer of this question is you can give opportunity for them to maybe have the same realization that you've had or the same curiosities that are existing within you right now. Sure, maybe opening up and being vulnerable and being real and having those conversations and then creating alternate plans, and you do all of that. But at the end of the day, either they will or they won't. But what are you going to do? I think that's what you got to consider is, all right, there might not be a way for me and my 5 girlfriends to all start a sobriety journey together. Okay, that's fine. However, I know I'm going to decide to do that for myself. I'll let them know, and I will tell them what I'm doing. I will share with them, why I'm doing it. And from there, like, they're their own full-grown human being, and they're going to do what they're going to do at the end of the day, So, if these questions are things that you're considering, I think you're almost offshooting a lot of the decision on what they're going to do. And I think it's again, fear-based. It's very like, well, I shouldn't start this if they're not going to join me. And obviously this person, if they had this on their heart enough to ask, they're sober curious enough for me to say this, that you just start. And a lot of this is going to be clear as you continue in your journey, because we can't predict what's going to happen. We can't predict if they're going to be like, oh my God, girl, same. Okay, gosh, you doing this for yourself has given me kind of that permission that, okay, I'm not weird now. Maybe they need you to go first. And sometimes you're just going to have to volunteer as tribute, my girl.
Yeah.
And it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be scary. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be enlightening. It's going to be awakening. And I think you just got to lean in.
Yeah. And remember that when you're stepping out of your comfort zone with anything, the mind is very tricky. It will throw ideas at you in a fear-based thought that really aren't hurdles, but it's tricking you into thinking, oh yeah, you're right, I should stay where I am. It's my friends, it's my job. What am I going to do for fun? The boredom. Yeah. When you just do it, like she said, volunteers tribute, when you just do it, you figure out how silly those little fears were, and they were just ammunition from your comfort zone saying, stay where you are, stay where you are, stay where you are. So like Annie said, almost towards the beginning of this, like whatever you fear, do it, because that is your comfort zone saying, stay right here. It doesn't actually matter about your friends. I know that sounds crazy, but it actually does not matter.
That's the whole podcast episode. Actually, it doesn't even matter. You actually don't need to engage with them.
Yeah. Sorry. Like I have one handful of besties that are best friends that have been with me through my drinking and now. When I was drinking, I had 50 best friends that I thought were all best friends, but they didn't. So they'll show their colors, and most of the relationships that you are frantically worrying over and feeling responsible about, you're going to figure out why they're not important. I know that's scary.
No, I love it. I think it's also just like, it's freeing to just be like, you know what?
You do kind of got to purge your friend group, right?
Yeah, honestly. And
well,
for
this took a quick turn.
Yeah, we're like, actually, all these answers, now we're like, actually, this whole podcast could have been very, very much shorter. But I think like everything we chatted on was very relevant. And at the end of the day, I also want to share this is like, for every person you're worried is going to judge you, disown you, think you're dumb, there is another person out there that's going to think the exact opposite. They're going to think you're inspiring. They're going to think you're a fucking badass. They're going to think you're independent, that you're iconic, that you're positive, that you're somebody they want in their life. So, and that's with everything. That's with relationships. That's with sobriety. That's with friendships. That's with career, right? Like, I think if you can start to shift your mindset to be less of the lack and more of the abundance, it's actually all going to make a lot more sense. And it's going to be like, you know what? Okay, bet. I got this. And maybe I'm leaving this friend group and maybe I'm going to look back and be really grateful for them and love our memories that we have together. But it actually led me to this new friend group that I have, and I'm kind of experiencing this right now, to be honest, is, I physically got up and left Dallas. I still hold a lot of those friendships very close to me. And honestly, people that are really important in my life and I talk to on a weekly basis, but I don't see them every day, and we're not doing the same things we used to do. But in kind of all the shifts that have happened over the last year and a half, I'm now in Scottsdale, and the friendships I have in my life, you guys, 2 years ago, I would not have believed you. Last night I went and grabbed dinner with one of my girlfriends, and we sat, and the way we chatted about really deep shit for 3.5 hours. We had to have the waitress come over, and she's like, we're close. You guys have like just ordered an appetizer, but do you want to drink? She was literally confused what was happening, but we were in such a deep conversation for 3.5 hours. No drinks. We got a mocktail and we got an appetizer, and the restaurant was closing. And if you would have told me that would have been the reality of my friendships now, I'd be like, with no drinks, and what were you talking? What do you talk about for 3.5 hours? Like, there's that much, And it's all in continuously leaning into those heart tugs and continuously doing the work that you obviously at some level feel called to do, right? So while it might feel confusing, it might feel hard, it might feel scary, lean into it and do it, because good is to come from doing exactly that.
Yeah, let me tell you, this will cure you of any abandonment or rejection issues. You're just going to start to learn, like, if somebody doesn't want to hang out with me, that's about them. It's not about me. I'm cool AF. That's a lot of that inner work, so that you are confident no matter what anybody else says or does around you. So if this is like, where your heart is, like, I need to learn this. Keep in mind, we have the Sober Experiment. We have the school community, the platform that is off of social media. So you don't have to be asking really private questions on Instagram, on our page for everybody to see. That new Sober Confident Collective group is live, and we're here because we're just really skimming the surface. And there is so much to be said about relationships. We didn't even talk about, chasing authenticity versus maintaining those attachments, the responsibility of your friend group. That has a lot to say about your beliefs. Like, there's so much more to this that we dive deep into, and that internal work that we talk about, that's important, especially month 1, month 2, to get you set up for kind of unshelving the friend groups and testing the waters with those relationships. And there's so much to this that we couldn't possibly cover in an hour, but we really, really, really hope that this brought you a sense of confidence and a sense of abundance.
A new perspective.
Yeah.
Of just like, actually it's not, you're okay. That makes sense,
Yeah, like breath of fresh air energy. Like, nothing's that serious. Nothing is permanent. We hope that you go through your day with a pep in your step, and be sure to check out the links in this episode description to join the Sober Confident Collective on School. Reach out on Instagram or email us for the episode if you have any request topics, questions, just like the listener submitted today. Holler at us. Annie, I'll let you sign us out.
Till next time, you guys.
And remember, you can fire all of your friends if you want. All right. But jokes aside, we love you, and we can't wait to have more in-depth convos like this around our kitchen table, sipping the OJ. We'll talk to you soon. Stay strong. Love you lots.